my 30-year journey of learning about training and how it can transform people and the environment and organisations and even whole sectors and beyond. But we're going to start with the example of just one company who had to go green to get out of the red. So this is the story of Heb, a really brilliant civil construction company. Current CEO Mark Evans has given me full approval to use this material. So back in the day, I was in giant marquee in the Auckland Botanic Gardens, 2008, where Derek Adams, who was the then CEO, was talking to 300 earthworks contractors. And he was explaining how they were being prosecuted out of business because their environmental controls were so poor that every time it rained, there was sticky yellow clay everywhere. Roads, pipes, streams, beaches, absolutely all over the place. And what happened was they were facing multiple prosecutions. They were losing tenders, they were losing clients, and they were losing money. So Derek reluctantly decided that if they wanted to stop being prosecuted and stay in business, they had to roll out environmental training. Fortunately, there was some. There was erosion and sediment control training. I know this doesn't sound very sexy, but it is what it is on the tin. And they did this so well, they rolled it down from top to bottom, boots to suits, throughout the entire company. So here's Derek. This is one of the reasons why this training is so important. And you can look at this diagram and you'll go cross-eyed. I tell you, when you look at it close up, you still go cross-eyed. So this work is highly technical, and the training had to make sure that the people had the language, the literacy, the numeracy to actually build these things and get them right first time. And so these are whole of life skills, actually, as well as environmental skills. So here we are still in 2008 in the Auckland Botanic Gardens, and Derek's going, well, we tripled our turnover. We're winning great work. We're not getting prosecuted anymore, but we've tripled our turnover. And he's going, well, I can understand how the training might have contributed maybe 25% of that tripling of turnover. But he was got a complete loss to explain where the other 75% came from. Well, let me explain. In my 30 plus years of doing environmental training on absolutely all sorts of topics, I've noticed that companies really don't fully appreciate the benefit of training. So the thing is that HEB didn't aim to triple their turnover. They aimed to stop being prosecuted and stay in business. And they succeeded. And they brilliantly trained their staff. And the thing is that they had to, the only thing they did was training, but they had to reorganise their whole business around that learning. Now, the environmental genie does not stay in the environmental bottle. It comes out and it goes everywhere throughout the entire company. And essentially, they learned how to learn. So my explanation of this inexplicable 75% of increased turnover was that it's the training that led to the learning that resulted in the productivity from absolutely every part of the company. And everyone knows that higher productivity is like the holy grail of governments and businesses. But not everyone knows that training is one of the best ways, and I believe environmental training in particular, but I would, wouldn't I? Is one of the best ways of lifting productivity. So here's the situation we're in. We're in a really dire environmental state. And just maybe put your hands up if you ever have entertained worries about the state of the environment or heard some, oh, crumbs, oh, that's about 2/3 of you. I know, it's awful. Well, the World Economic Forum is pretty worried as well. And every year in January, and the latest one has just come out, they do a global risk analysis of the main threats to the global economy. And we can see here of the 10 decadal risks we face right now, half of them are environmental. The top 3 most serious and likely are environmental. Okay, I've worked in the environment all my life, but I think you can see why I believe that if we want to save the economy, environmental training could be quite a good idea. So that's how I take it myself. So we've come from at the company scale and at the global scale. There's a place called WOW, and that is where the environment is healthy, the people are healthy, and the economy is healthy, because every job is a green job. Every single job is a green job. So what is a green job? Well, the International Labour Organization and the UN Environment Programme define this as a decent job with decent pay that's family friendly and good for the environment. Well, how many jobs can we think of around the world, even in our own Aotearoa, that meet those criteria? So what's the solution to the environmental threats that the World Economic Forum has identified? It's also hiding in plain sight. Well, of course, we just turn every job into a green job. Simple, right? Yep. Could be a bit hard. Could be a bit big to tackle. Well, the funny thing is that Auckland Council's training has already shown us how, because they rolled out that training. He'd delivered it fully in-house, but they rolled out that training to the entire civil construction sector in Auckland. It's spread all around New Zealand, spread to Australia, and it's actually a global movement. So they show us how we can do this. So I don't think my animations are working here, but how this goes, there's a huge literature on learning. And everyone talks about individual learning, which we do, preschool to postgrad, it's all learning. We saw how what Peter Singer calls a learning organisation was what HEB accidentally became because they did their environmental training so well. And there's a vast literature globally on what's called the Learning Society, which the UN has got loads of definitions about. But there's a really huge gap between the organisational and the national economic scale. You can't straddle it in one jump. But what the Auckland Council did was they targeted their training right in that gap, which is at the sector scale. So your organisation, country, you've got your sector, like the civil construction sector, the infrastructure sector, all these different manufacturing, these different sectors of the economy, they targeted at that scale. And so all of these different scales work, but what happened in the erosion and sediment control sector, the big land development sector, we created a whole new profession that had never existed in Aotearoa before. Environmental managers, erosion and sediment control, very sexy. Managers on big civil construction sites. But very soon, these people ended up restoring streams and doing all sorts of things. And so they broadened out, they became environmental managers. Now, some of these very same people are doing carbon accounting, social impact reporting, biodiversity assessments. So they've turned into sustainability managers. So this sector is moving, and we're learning the whole time as we learn more and more about the environment and about how we can do it better. So where we came from, like 30 years ago, when this training and the whole program was being rolled out, I was sitting at a table at the Auckland Council with a lot of staff and a lot of industry players and community interests, and they were very polarised. And some of the people at that table had the power to put some of the others in jail for their environmental pollution. Wow. But together, we developed the training. Together, we trialled it. These poor people sat through 2 days of Brian Handyside and me going, oh, what do you think about this bit? And so they helped us make the training better for the industry, better for the council, better for the environment. So 30 years later, we're still together as a mature sector researchers of all stripes, Crown Research, government bodies, councils, we've got consultants and contractors, we've got suppliers to the industry. Everybody is in there and we're just loving it. We've got a new mission, which is to update the old guideline, and we're just absolutely loving it. But what if we could do more than that? Well, Nobel Prize winning economist Joseph Stiglitz says we can in his 2015 book. So he says, this is my definition of the learning society. I've experienced such joy in rolling out this training to people who did it because otherwise they'd be prosecuted, that, it was seen such a joyful process for everyone, really. It's nice, it's fun not being prosecuted. I see a learning society as being a society that's committed to, which means it's investing in, joyful, lifelong and life-wide training that addresses the whole individual of every person in every country. That to me is the heart of the learning society. And so what Joseph Stiglitz and his colleague Bruce Greenwald, their research showed that, so this is a map showing in money, because what did HEB make when they did this better? They made money. So did every other company in the civil construction sector. So have other companies I've worked with in manufacturing and you name it, is they make pots and pots of money. So Stiglitz says creating a learning society should be an objective of any government's economic policy. That's a very strong statement for an economist to make. What's that quote, George Bernard Shaw? If you laid all the economists in the world end to end, they would still not reach a conclusion. But this is a very powerful conclusion. Better than that, from my point of view, Stiglitz says you get there by delivering industry training. Yes! And of course, from my point of view, environmental training is top of the list. We might as well start there. So the next step is for us, all of us, what can we actually do? What can we really do? So we've looked at this whole learning journey, but, we've seen how a small group of people could transform an entire sector. Well, if we can do one, why don't we do all of them? That's what I think. So every sector of the economy has got its industry bodies and it's got its expert environmental associations as well. If these bodies get together with the councils, we can really get it happening again, just like we did with the increasingly sexy erosion and sediment control. And so I thought, well, look at Auckland. It is so beautiful. Tamaki Makaurau. Tamaki, desired by all. It is exquisite. It's suffering, as some of our people, too many. We can tackle this. Let's reimagine the future of work to regenerate Auckland. How would that be? A whole bunch of people, diverse, happy, vibrant, creative, well-fed. What's not to like? Karawhiua. Let's go for it.